Riff Offs. We want to welcome you to this expectation-free space where you get to come exactly as you are. That's exactly how we come too. It is this open invitation just for you to journey with us into the heart of transformational truth. And every time we do one of these podcasts, we get an opportunity to dig into some topics that both Rochelle and I have been living with and grappling with and just seeing play out in a variety of ways. And you get the opportunity to hear our raw and unfiltered thoughts on all of these topics. So if you ever have a topic that you're interested in us digging into, please feel free to message us. We sincerely hope that you join us, and we cannot tell you enough how much we have an invitation without expectation, as my dear friend would say, to come and join us in our Transformational Truth Facebook group. You can also contact us there. You can also dig into a lot more content about our different topics that we spin when we do these riff-offs. Rochelle, how are you doing tonight? Are you excited about this?
I'm so excited. I feel like there's a need for a shift. We were in the last space for about 3 weeks, and it seems to be all consuming for some reason, unintentionally. And so I'm just ready for a shift. So let's go. Let's spin that wheel.
Let's do it. All right. So this week, we are going to be digging into oh my goodness. Demystifying discomfort. I happen to know some things that have been on both of our radars lately that is making me feel like this is, as usual, when we dig into these things, pretty on point. Very, very
always on point, and
very, very connected with things that we are experiencing right now. I'm dying to know what your thoughts on this are. So demystifying discomfort.
So right before we started this podcast, I was sharing about a recent discomfort. And I just wrapped up my first memoir and just wrapped up the cover art of the book. And I haven't shared it publicly. I've shared it with like maybe 3 or 4 people. And I just sent it out to a campaign that's going to be sharing it worldwide. So talk about discomfort, sharing it for the first time publicly in a manner where it's going to be shared on such a high scale before the book even comes out. So that's my discomfort in the moment. And we must have been attracting the wheel, because what about you, Ashley?
There are so many things that come to mind for me in this arena. And actually the first thing that comes to mind for me is the fact that in kind of our society and the way that things are for us right now, I think there are so many people who spend so much time trying to avoid discomfort. And it's funny because in my own life, there's been a little bit of this dichotomy, right? This back and forth where there are moments where I really can see clearly and can lean into discomfort because I understand that on the other side of challenge is growth, right? And so without challenge, I know that I'm staying stuck, and I know that I'm not going to be reaching maybe this next level of a place that I need to go. I also know that there are all sorts of sayings and things that are out there where we know that on the other side of obstacles, right, is this next opportunity for us. There's so much that's out there. And yet there are other aspects of my life, things that I've gone through in the past, things that are even currently going on, where it is so easy for me to be like, that is so uncomfortable. That is so uncomfortable. And I'd really like to just set it over here to the side. And I'd like to pretend that it's not what's happening right now or whatever. And I think we get in this dangerous space where I'm just as guilty of compartmentalizing things or deciding that I can minimize my discomfort somehow, when in reality, when we minimize that discomfort, a lot of times we're also denying parts of ourselves that really need that discomfort because, again, there's something that's on the other side of it that we're supposed to learn or that we're supposed to figure out or whatever. So I feel like those are what come up for me. I also had a friend the other day recommend a book to me. I've not read it yet, but it's something that I'm really curious about. But the book is called The Comfort Crisis. The premise of it is that there is a direct correlation between the rise of unhappiness and loneliness and anxiety and depression and all of these different things that we're experiencing on massive levels in our society today and the level of comforts that we have. And so one of my very favorite people to listen to is, I love listening to Tony Robbins and I love listening to Dean Graziosi. They have so many things that I feel like I learn from them all of the time. But one of the big things that they talk about is that if you're struggling with like some of the little problems and like, things like that in your life, that number one, it is a lie that you're ever going to reach a space where there's no discomfort. There's no such thing, right? It doesn't matter if you have $5 in the bank or $5 million in the bank. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. There's no such thing as not having elements of challenge. And so if you get stuck in that, they talk about all the time reaching for solving bigger problems. Because when we solve bigger problems, we're not trying to avoid the problems that we have. We're leaning into this idea of seeking solutions that matter on a grander scale. And so I think that's really interesting. They also talk a lot about how nobody's coming to save us. And so it's got to be us stepping up for us. And so I think when we try and wrap our minds around this idea of demystifying discomfort, demystifying the idea that it's something to be avoided, demystifying the fact that it is not serving us somehow, and then demystifying the fact that sometimes it can actually be, this key that is opening up other opportunities for us when we're approaching it more openly and with less hesitation or reservation, or reticence is the word that comes to mind. So that was a lot of very raw thinking. I just feel like this is hitting really deeply for me right now. So I don't know what your thoughts are on all of that.
Yeah, I think I don't want to call it the devil's advocate, but
Yeah.
I think from my point of view, I don't think I've ever struggled with demystifying discomfort because I've always been in a state of some discomfort that was not under my control. And this is a conversation I have frequently with my husband, who will avoid discomfort at all costs, to the point where it was hurting our marriage so much. And it's just a conversation we've been sitting in for so many months, and watching him realize that it's so temporary, but some of the things that he used to do to avoid it felt very permanent. So in the avoidance, you create permanent situations, but demystifying, facing it head on, it becomes a temporary state. And you don't have to let it bleed onto anybody else. And so we are very much polar opposites in our marriage when it comes to discomfort, that I feel like and it's a norm for me. I'm grateful that it is so normal for me, because I want to lead by example in my life for people that I love and for people that I'm waiting to encounter. Something that was on my heart all day actually was wanting to share something like a social media post where it was, I promise you I will always do it first before I encourage you, to do X, Y, Z or whatever. And so that's just, I love the gift that I've never had to really struggle with this. So again, it's like total polar opposites, because I just want people to realize that we were never promised an easy life. This conversation comes up so many times. We were never promised, we're always seeming to try to reach something that's unobtainable and never supposed to be ours. But somewhere along the line, we were told or led by example or created a wrong narrative that struggle is bad.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so we try to avoid all of those aspects, but why? What does that accomplish? Like it just keeps us in a state of stuckness. And whether, just like traumas where we have like big T's, little T's, there's no measurement of T, with trauma. It's the same as discomfort. There's
Mhm.
not like, yes, a lot of discomfort has more lasting emotion sometimes, but I guarantee that it's a lie.
Yeah. Well, and this is making me think of just some of what I know about you and like this platform that you and I are standing in together with trying to encourage people who want to be authors, right? And lots of circumstances and things like that with Wildly Free Publishing. And I am thinking about a couple of different things, but the word that comes to mind is imperfect courage, right? And when it comes to, and there was a book written by Jessica Honegger called Imperfect Courage. We did an episode not too long ago about like how big is your brave, right? There's all these things that are connected to it. But I think sometimes we underestimate what we can do because in this moment it feels really uncomfortable, right? But then when we avoid the discomfort, what it does is it tells our brains like, oh, thank God, like thank God we were able to avoid that. Thank God we didn't have to do that. And then the next time it comes time to like get uncomfortable again, our brains are like, oh, remember last time we cut and run. Last time we were like out of it and we needed that. And so this time we want you to do that too. Whereas if we will surround ourselves with people who are safe or people who appreciate, what we're doing, then we can step into that. It also makes me think of just the whole storytelling side of Wildly Free. And I think that the story we tell ourselves about discomfort and what discomfort does in our lives is really powerful. And so when that narrative is more negative, when our discomfort is something that is, you know, I don't know, catastrophic in some way, like your big T, little t thing that you were talking about, right? Then that becomes the narrative of discomfort in general. Whereas other people, like you, when you were talking about your book, right? It's like you're taking something that has been a perpetual discomfort and you're turning it into this unbelievable win where all of these people are going to get a chance to experience the empowerment that came or that continues to come on the other side, really even as you're experiencing discomfort. Like it doesn't even have to be on the other side of it. It's like it gets to be this thing that you walk in together. And because of that, there's going to be people who are served. And so I think that a lot of times there's a big opportunity for us, right, to shift the narrative that comes with discomfort, not only in our own minds so that we approach it in healthier ways in general, but also in how we see how that discomfort can maybe serve somebody else. So I love that. I love that idea.
I'm so glad this topic came about, and I can't wait to dive deeper into it in our Facebook group, especially and read and listen to other people's experiences. I love when people share or, even in the comments of this podcast. So
yeah.
I think everything in this world is an affirmation, and it comes in the weirdest ways. And I think that landing on this was very affirming for both of us and hopefully very affirming for others who are listening.
Absolutely. Well, and I would definitely invite you, if you are listening right now and you've heard some of the things that we're talking about, and you either are feeling a little uncomfortable by some of the things that we're talking about, maybe a little challenged by some of the things that we're talking about, honestly, even if you're just a little bit intrigued and you're wanting to know more, like she said, we really would invite you into our Facebook group. We'd love to see your comments dropped on this video, and we would absolutely love to be in contact with you because journeying together is the best way to really, I feel like, get the most out of no matter what it is that you're experiencing, and shared discomfort, when it's done in the right ways and in the right spaces and with the right people, I feel like that's when we really get to fly. That's when we really get to soar. So we'd invite you into those spaces with us. And until next time, we love you. Thanks so much for catching our episode.